Welcome back to Margaritas in Paradise. Hey, you know, there's many a times that I'm sitting at a local bar, maybe Leo's or a place like that, and you always hear these stories. You know, it's like, oh, my girlfriend talked me into buying a bar, and I ended up losing everything, and or I fell in love with this girl and built the house and took care of gave surgery to the sick buffalo or like that, and it just kind of you almost become I don't know numb to a certain extent about stories like that. Last year I went through a whole story about a good friend of mine, Brett. Okay, and the update for Brett is that I mean it turned out pretty good for him. He ended up buying a big condo right down the road. He lives here full time now. He's about that close to getting married. You know, even though a lot of people here in Pattaya wouldn't agree with the marriage type scenario, I think this is probably the right girl for him. But anyway, and I had a little part in putting them two together. So that was a good thing in itself. We've talked about this before, about relationships in this area. How many relationships work versus how many don't work. Relationships between certain types of people versus other types of people. In my opinion, most relationships work. I don't hear about all the good stories in life. I mean, most people want to hear about the tragic bar girl experience or things like that. So I was sitting at a bar and with a group of friends, and one of my buddies named Gary started talking to us about somebody that he had met. Now, this is an ongoing story. This is something that literally developing right now. It kind of surprises me and my friends because we've all been here for a period of time. And Gary has been here too. He's heard all these stories before. You're going to see he's even questioning whether this is a scam or not. But anyway, let's continue on with the story. So Gary walks into a local bar and notices a young girl sitting there. Another older lady came up to him and he motioned that he'd rather talk to this younger girl, and that turned out to be Sa. So Sa came back. The older lady was the older sister of Sa. Sa was only there visiting her sister. She had just arrived in Pattaya and she was down here looking for work. Sa and Gary seemed to be getting along pretty good. He ended up buying her a couple drinks, and everything went pretty good, including exchanging contact information. Gary's like my age. Sa, she's like 24, 25 years old. So, but he knew, Gary knew that this girl was quite a bit younger. Basically, he checks Ben, and at that point, he realizes that Sa's drinks are all lady drinks. And he questions that right away. So between Sa and her sister, it came out, well, you met this girl here, and it's only helping her sister out. It wasn't a big thing for him, but he did question it and paid it and pressed on. Later on, he gets a message from Sa. She basically says that she misses him and was wondering if she could come over and see him tonight. And right away, Gary is like, well, yeah, you know, and she comes right on over. And she ended up spending the night with him. The next morning, Gary had heard her phone ringing. At one point or another, he finally woke up, finds Sa there crying. She's really upset. Gary asked her, well, what's wrong? And she said, well, that was her mother and her daughter's sick. And she doesn't have any money to pay for the doctor's bills. And she doesn't know what she's going to do. She just moved down here. But Gary, he asked her, well, how much are the doctor's bills? And she says, well, it's 3,000 baht. Gary reluctantly asked her, well, I could loan you the money. And that's what he ends up doing. And of course, Sa is immediately happy. He's all cuddly with him and really they're both enjoying life, but Gary knows he has a problem right now because he's planning on meeting us for breakfast. He's trying to figure out a way to kind of move her along and find out what her plans are. What ends up happening indirectly is she goes right back to sleep. And now he's trying to wake her up, and she just doesn't want to wake up. Gary decides at the last minute, he tries to tell her that he's going to go eat with his friends, and he'll be back later on, and to leave her in the room. With that being said, when he arrives for breakfast with us, this is the first that we get to hear about this story. So it kind of brings everybody up to speed of what's going on. Gary was gone for a couple hours, and when he comes back, he walks into his room, and it is noticeably clean. He had been gone several hours, and he's looking around, and I mean, everything from the floor being clean to the bed being made. Oh yeah, and the bed had a Miss Kitty blanket across the top of it. Okay, and he's like, "What's going on with that?" When Saw seen Gary, she runs up to him, and she's excited to see him, how much she missed him, and glad that she's home and everything, and even told him that he looks tired, and maybe he should go get a shower, and she'll give him a massage. He jumps in the shower, and right away she's in the shower with him, and he loves that. He loves the fact that after the shower, she's all drying him off and everything, and he thinks that's the greatest thing in the world as well. And then she ends up giving him this great massage, and he ends up taking a nap. So yeah, Gary's enjoying life. You're talking about a day and a half. Still, he's got this thing going on in the back of his head of when she's planning on leaving. So anyway, so she tells Gary everything that she did while he was gone. My sister came over here and brought me some food, and brought me a couple things that I had at her place. And she's settling into his room, and Gary's noticing this here, and he's kind of like, it's about time for her to go. So basically, he does bring it up. What are her plans? She wants to find a job so she can make some money, afford to go find her own place to stay, instead of going back and forth with her sister and that type of thing, because her sister isn't going to stay in the area very long. She's getting ready to move, so she can't just stay with her sister. All right, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you give me a big thumbs up, that you're hitting that subscribe button, hit the little bell next to it for future notification of videos that are coming out. And go Chiefs! So they decide they're going to go out and have hot pot. And when they finish with that, Saw and Gary's getting along really good, and he wants to go have a beer. They ended up deciding they're going to go back to Saw's sister's bar and have a couple drinks. One turned into 10. They ended up getting pretty sauced up, and by the end of the night, his sister's sitting there drinking with him, of course, and he looks at the bin, and he's got over 10 lady drinks. Saw's drinks are all lady drinks, and then Saw's sister's lady drinks. He does question this again, why is her drinks lady drinks? And she says, oh, it's just a mistake. They're going to figure this out. It's just helping my sister. All right, so by this point, Gary's thinking, man, he is really lucky. He's got this beautiful young girl that wants to just take care of him, that seems really into him, and he's starting to get a soft spot for her as well. She's becoming very touchy-feely, and she ended up telling him she feels so comfortable with him, and that he is the first flong that she's ever been with. This relationship is starting to develop a little bit. After Gary wakes up, he finally sits down with Saw and wants to know, what her plans are. He's basically thinking that maybe she should go home, and she relays to him that she doesn't have a place to go to right now. She can go stay with her sister, but that's only a temporary thing, and she needs a place that she can stay at until she can save up some money and find her own place, and that she would love to take care of Gary until she can find a place. Now to Gary, he's thinking to himself, man, this is pretty good, because he's not having to pay her for one thing. She's just a regular girl that's never really been into the bar scene or anything like that. And this is one of those things that he feels like he's really stumbled upon, maybe lucked into. Anyway, he ends up agreeing with her and saying, yeah, there'd be nothing wrong with that, for you to stay here and take care of me until you find a job and you're able to get out on your own. Hey, let's see here. I want to put out a shout out. Kansas City Chiefs, go Chiefs. Also, we're going to throw a shout out to Jaime from Southern California. I saw him on the streets. If you ever see me on the streets and want to do a picture or something like that, come up to me. I definitely want to meet you. Let's do a selfie. Bill from Florida bought me a drink. I thank you very much. Definitely humbling. I can't tell you how much I really appreciate that. So thank you very much. There's information in the description below if you want to buy me a drink, how you can do that. Anyway, let's press on. After returning home from Hot Pot and a stop by her sister's bar for a few beers, Sa was just tired as can be, and Gary ended up jumping into the shower, and the next thing you know, Sa's in the shower with him, and he's really liking the shower thing. She's scrubbing his back. So that was one thing. He says, I've never had my back probably this clean for forever. And he also talked about the bottom of his feet. Up his leg and scrubs the bottom of his feet, and he's like, man, this is great. Like he's living like a king. I mean, she's taking really good care of him, and she's calling him T-Lock or darling. He's falling for her too. He's really enjoying the life having her around. The next morning, he wakes up to Sa crying, and immediately, he's like, well, what's wrong? She says that her mother called her and told her that her daughter's really sick, that she has some type of disease, and that she needs to be on a special medicine now that maybe she may have to take for the rest of her life, and it's really expensive. Of course, Gary asked her, well, how much is it? And she said, well, it's going to cost 3,000 baht a month. Gary hated seeing her crying like that, so immediately he said, well, I'll loan you the 3,000 baht for the first month, and until you can get a job. Immediately, Sa, of course, stopped crying, and the next thing you know, she's all cuddled up next to Gary, and they fall back to sleep. Gary was telling me that he finally wakes up to Sa in his arms, and he's just thinking, man, her skin's just so soft, and she's really comfortable with him right now, and really feeling good, and he's really liking life. And eventually she ends up waking up, and they're both hungry, so they order something on Grab and have that delivered. Later on, he goes in to take a shower. She's in the shower with him. He had mentioned things like her cleaning his ears. He'll be sitting on his sofa watching TV or working on his computer, and Sa's cleaning his ears or taking care of his fingernails and his toenails and things like that. And he's like, man, he could really get used to this type of life, other than going out to eat and the few extra drinks and things like that she's not really costing him any extra money. Later on, Sa asked Gary if it would be okay if her sister joined them, meeting Sa's sister at this Hot Pot, and they enjoyed a great meal there. And then from there, they went back down to Sa's sister's bar again for more drinks. Okay, and of course, you guessed it, by the end of the night, there were more lady drinks there. All Sa's drinks were lady drinks. The sister's drinks, he said that, I think he said the bin was like 3,500 baht or something like that, and he was pretty drunk by the end of the night. And by the time they got home, ready to flop into the bed, but Sa insisted that they go into the shower. He sees this young girl as a kind of a crazy light in his life. That candle, it's burning bright right now, and he's really enjoying this time that he has with Sa. Gary is definitely falling for Sa. Now, what do you think? Do you think this is the real deal? Do you think it's love? I don't know. I'm still, there's lots of red flags here. I'm expecting major things to happen down the road. We'll see you in the next one. All right. That's all I have for you.